Hello, I'm the People Mentor. So today I want to talk to you about that one team member who is always at the centre of something. Nothing's ever their fault. Everything's unfair. And somehow every small setback turns into a drama. At first you're concerned, then you're worn down. Before long you're second guessing yourself and wondering if you're the problem. So this isn't about being overly emotional. So in Positive Intelligence book, Sherrod's Shaman calls the victim Saboteur, the inner voice that exaggerates pain and uses suffering to gain affection or attention or rescue. And it has a habit of pulling in everyone around it if you don't hold the line. Okay, so let's look in deeper at this. You'll recognise this pattern when you see constant blame for delays, problems, or even just feeling overlooked, a poor me tone in most conversations, resistance to feedback, often followed by tears or a shutdown. A general belief that life just happens to them. It's really hard to deal with these type of people, let's be honest. Amy Gallio, in Getting Along, the book, describes this as someone who believes the world is out to get them, but doesn't see how they're part of the problem. And therein lies your problem. When you try to support them, you're going to get a deflection or you're going to get a short shutdown. So that's something to be aware of. So what's going on underneath? This behaviour is often linked to survival strategy learnt early. So when someone learns that emotional overwhelm gives them protection or softness, over time it becomes a habit. They seek sympathy, they avoid responsibility, they stay stuck because staying stuck feels safer. In psychology, this is known as secondary gain, when distress brings hidden rewards like attention or lowered expectations. They're not necessarily doing it on purpose, but the pattern is powerful. What's really fascinating is that some people with this mind streak may actually seek out disappointment because it gives them a psychological boost. They can feel pleasure from receiving attention or pity, and they even get a strange satisfaction from showing off their struggles and making others feel guilty. So why does it matter? Well, if you ignore it, here's what happens. The team start walking on eggshells. You waste your energy circling the same issues, and other team members begin to feel resentful. And ironically, the person feeling singled out creates even more distance between everybody. As Amy Gallio notes, left unchecked, the victim mindset can shift. One minute they're seeking care, next they're undermining others or they're blaming people who try to help. I've seen this create four main problems as shown on the slide. First, it's toxic for morale. Their constant pessimism wears everybody down. I'm sure it's wearing you down if you're listening to this. Second, it kills productivity because they make preventable mistakes to blame someone else. And third, it really does damage relationships as they swing between seeking sympathy and attacking the people trying to help them. And fourth, it destroys trust because they believe everything's happening to them and that rather than taking absolutely any responsibility. So you have my empathy here when you're dealing with a victim. Is it really a victim mindset? Ask yourself. So here's a quick mental checklist that you can do. The questions are there. So do you find they often say, why does this always happen to me? Do their conversations usually centre on problems and not solutions? So that's an area you can work on with them. Do you feel drained after speaking to them? Are they a source of frequent disruptions or tales of woe? And do you find yourself avoiding feedback just to keep the pace? That's concerning. And do they frequently blame others when things go wrong or when they don't achieve targets? And do they reject chances to join workplace activities or refuse to admit they're enjoying themselves? And do they imply others have an easier route to success because they get better treatment? And do they seem to attract disproportionate drama compared to their peers? And another one is, do they only agree to tasks after passive-aggressive resistance? If you're nodding yes to most of these, or some of these, this isn't a personality, it's a repeat pattern, and you can interrupt it. So, what can you do? Let me walk you through a structure I use with clients. I call it the 4 R's. But first, an important note. If you're dealing with this in your workplace, involve your HR department early. Taking action on your own could easily be seen as bullying by the person concerned. So get HR to advise on your approach and keep them informed every step of the way. So, the 4 R's. Recognize the pattern. Stop questioning yourself. You're not being unkind by naming what's happening. You're actually being responsible. As Shamin teaches in Positive Intelligence, awareness is the first step towards shifting out of saboteur-driven behaviour. Really important. You've got to be aware to know to make the changes. Then you reframe the story. So don't get pulled into the emotional loop. Bring it back to impact and choices. To try, what do you think the ripple effect has been on others? Get them to see the impact they're having. What part of this can you influence going forward so you're helping them take responsibility? It helps them move from helpless to hopeful without you over-functioning. And then refocus on their power. Even if they say, I can't change this, try, if you had full control, what would you want to try? So you're not pushing positivity, you're offering a route back to power for them. Reinforce the boundary setting. Support doesn't mean absorbing distress. You can say something like, let's focus on what we need to move forward here. We've talked about the problem. Now let's look at what's next. So here's some language that helps. To validate without enabling, you could say, I can hear this has been hard. Let's focus what's in our hands, what's in our control. To name responsibility, I see this as something for you to lead on. Let's talk about how you'll do that. And to protect the team, I want everyone to feel supported. That means sticking to shared expectations. To close down the spiral, let's pause and come back when we're both clearer, and then reset another meeting in place. One more truth, if you let the behaviour slide, it often escalates. Amy Gallio warns victims can shift into victimisers, blaming others, creating conflict, and hiding behind emotion. I've learned that one of the biggest challenges is that they usually don't want help. They'll react negatively to any attempt to change their behaviour because of that secondary gain I mentioned. So they don't like responsibility that comes with accountability. They may get defensive or passive aggressive towards anyone trying to help them. So the sooner you address it, the less damage it causes. Really important that you deal with it sooner rather than later. So your role as a leader, you're not the emotional sponge, you're not the fixer, you're the person who holds that calm space and protects your team's energy. You're keeping performance on track. And that's not cold, that's good leadership. And remember, you're not a therapist. Your job is to help your team perform well through clear expectations and good management. So set boundaries, keep records of what's happening, build team connection, and communicate. And do the communication clearly and encourage people to take ownership. But don't let their struggles become an excuse for poor performance. A final check-in here. Warning signs that you're actually being pulled in. So have you started softening your feedback? Are you avoiding certain chats? Are you holding back your expectations? That's a sign you're being pulled into their pattern and it's time to reset. So if you want help, if this is playing out in your team and you want to prepare for a strong, calm conversation, book a one-to-one session, leadership reset session with me. I'll walk you through it step by step, what to say, how to say it, and how to keep your team strong. That's it, the People Mentor signing off for today. Thank you for listening.